If you're not ready for the challenge, or you're not ready for the information that's been given to you, you may not necessarily want it. I know at some point I would have people talking to me about getting my education and not being completely ready.
Okay, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast, where this year, at least in 2024, we are interviewing 100 Black men. And I think we're in the 70s right now, so this is the month of October, so I will definitely get to 100. But this has been so eventful for me. It's been, I say I'm one of the luckiest people who gets to talk to Black men that's out there. There are some other podcasts out there. There are some other people who are speaking. I just feel so blessed and so lucky because I get to hear the heart of men that are making things happen. It's one thing when you have let's say you get to speak to a lot of entertainers, which I get to. I have a podcast with Ronnie DeVoe from Belle Biv and DeVoe on that I did a podcast, and that's fun and it's great. And there's some other celebrities that I've had, some actors and some professional basketball players, some professional football players. But those are the folks that get interviewed all the time. What I love to do is be able to talk to some of the heroes that are making a difference in their communities. They're making a difference in local, conversations, local in their community centers or their churches that have figured this out. Not that we are all done and we just got it all completed and we're not getting better. And that's why we're calling it Journey to Freedom, right? What does that freedom happen to look like as we work through who we are and our identity and where we came from? And so as I get to talk to people, I get to find people like yesterday where we had somebody who just made it through. He told me, Marcus is on our show today, and we're gonna talk to him. But he said, I lived in the worst neighborhood that North Carolina could offer. He said that the policemen and the ambulances would not come into the community they grew up in. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm lucky I grew up here in Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado is probably not the city that you think of when you think of violence or you think of gangs or you think of, a hard upbringing. And you don't think of it because it really isn't. I'm not saying we don't have our issues and we don't have our problems. And when I grew up I was born in the 60s, and it was definitely a smaller community. Now I can say that the Klan was here in force. I could say that, racism was alive, and there was a lot of things that happened, but not at the extent where if I got up in the morning, I wondered if I would make it out of my neighborhood to get to school. And so we go from there. We go from folks that had homes where they had fathers and they had mothers and they had family that came around them and they took care of them, and they grew up and they said, I'm going to turn this back. I'm going to give it back. And so, today I have Marcus on with me today, 30 years in the military, serving our country, serving the people of God. Before we got started today, we talked about some of the wars and the things that are happening in our world right now. And I was just telling him how thankful I am that there were people like him who were willing to serve and willing to, put their life on the line so that I could have the freedoms that I have. And so just so appreciate that. And so Marcus, again, thank you for being on today. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. We talked about, hey, my boss has asked me to do this and I'm doing that. And, we've tried 2 or 3 times to get together, but we're finally here. And so if you could just kind of start out about your story, who you are, how you ended up becoming the man that you are today, and then we'll just move on from there.
Absolutely. So one, I'd like to thank you for having me. It's an honor, and hopefully it goes out there and touches someone. But thank you for giving me the opportunity. Who am I? So Marcus, I am from Dillon, South Carolina, a small town right off I-95. If you've ever been up, see all the signs for south of the border. That is where Dillon is located at, right on the border of North Carolina. I was born in High Point, North Carolina. Ended up, growing up with my aunt, cousins. So I spent 18 years of their formative parts of my life there in Dillon. Just also another thing, when President Obama was running for the White House, he ended up having a kid, one of the kids that went to a school there that was, Dillon made the news because of the school system was bad. We had kids in school, a school I went to, the junior high school. When a train would come by and you couldn't hear anything, it would make the building shake and things of that nature. But just talked about the education that we had there in Dillon, South Carolina. So that's the place I'm from. No big deal. You go there, you learn, you do your very best, and you come out. At the age of 18, I joined the military, joined the Army, and was able to move around and travel the world and go to all various parts. In the 30 years, as mentioned, of my service, I moved 14 times, so 14 different assignments.
Wow.
So nowhere any longer than 4 years, which was my last assignment. Everything else was probably 2 years, pack up and move on to the next place. So it makes you very, versatile, easily adaptable to various things. Got married, had a daughter. My daughter is now 22 years old. And so she grew up, in the military, in that framework of packing up, moving every 2 or 3 years. So unlike me, who stayed in Dillon for the entire time, she was able to move around. Made her very resilient, moving around, from South Korea to Tennessee to Texas, South Carolina, just various places she's been. Now she's in grad school at Auburn University, pre-veterinarian. So, proud of that. I did my time. I retired in 2022, and I came to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I work in corporate banking. So just my skills. While I was in the military, I got a master's degree, MBA in human resources. So I just, along the way, pursued my education, made some great friends, but I always had an eye on the future, just looking to be better, improve life from where I came from, make life a better, provide a better life for my daughter than I had. Not that I didn't have anything. I don't think I mentioned I didn't know my father.
Okay.
I know of him, but I didn't know him. Last time I saw him, I was like 2 years or 7 years old. So I was a young kid. Didn't grow up with my mother, although I had a great relationship with her. She passed in 2011 from cancer. So for me personally, just being a guy to take the world as it comes at you, understanding there's going to be good days, there are going to be bad days, but another day is going to be there tomorrow. So I've just took that motto from a kid and just try to instill it in my daughter as best as I could, just to move on and try to make the best out of life.
Gotcha, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. When I think, you mentioned family and not, your story is not like that of a lot of others that didn't, have a dad, that was present in your life for a lot of your young years. When we think about identity, what do you think, or what was it that shaped your identity to help you become the man that you are, the person who does the opposite and is there for his daughter the whole time that she's growing up? What happens? Where does that identity come from?
That's a great question. So while I didn't grow up with my dad or my mom, my biological mom, they're in the house. So not having that, I had family. So like I say, I had an aunt, I had cousins, older cousins that would probably be on me for doing the wrong things. Taught me how to drive, taught me some of the things that they could, because everybody doesn't have everything. Like I don't have everything to give to my daughter. I give her what I know, what I've been able to learn, and hopefully she takes that and grasps and grows and moves along with it. For me, it kind of just goes back to, not, while I'm there with family, I'm not a brother. I'm not that's not me. I have cousins. So I understand the difference in those relationships and, periodically stuff comes up. So just, like I mentioned before, taking life as it was given to me. These are my deck of cards. Let's play them and let's try to win. So I just always looked and thought of, how I can be better, just how to make myself better, how to make life better.
Oh, cool. Now, like when you were growing up, were there lots of kids in the same house you were in, or you were just around? You were around family.
No, lots of kids in the same house. I had
Okay.
one cousin the same age, one younger, quite a few older, then cousins next door. So no, I grew up around family.
Oh, that's cool. So, when you think of being a family man now, and being able to walk that all the way through, what do you think the changes is in what the meaning of family has meant to you over the years? Because you had a lot. Like I asked you about how many kids were in the house, because if you're an only child, then it's a whole different viewpoint of what family is than it is. But now you're a dad, and you're doing the things that dads do, but you're in the military, so you have the responsibilities where every few years you're having to go through that. Telling your daughter, especially I guess as she got older, oh, we're moving again. Your friends are getting ready to change. I know you probably don't want to leave. What was that? How do you feel about that importance of family?
Um, and so is my wife and my daughter. So three of us, a
Okay.
little package.
I love it.
So for us, I think it was good. It was, we have the opportunities to go back home, go to Alabama. That's where my wife was from, or to go to South Carolina, periodically. We had those times to go back there and visit. But, after the 3-4 days or whatever, we go back to life that we knew, which was us. Get up in the morning, go do this, go do that, come home, and after work. Um, so, and I've sort of, stated that to her several times, and my wife, by the way, of just knowing that it's us three. It's us to rely on each other to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for one another, and to make the best out of life as we have it. And of course, in the military, we have great friends. Some of my best friends in the world came from the military. Their kids, I have quite a few kids that call me uncle, because of the relationship I've had with their dad. And same thing with my daughter. She has, my friend she calls uncle, because of the relationships and us growing up and seeing, kids from a small age to now young adults.
Oh, that's really cool. One of the things that, as black men, we don't always get to have conversations with. I mean, we go to different outings, whether it's a club or a bar or a barbershop or different picnic or wherever we're meeting, and we have these conversations. We just don't get a lot of time to talk about some of the things that impact our lives on a bigger level. Things like our finances and things like who we are and how we're getting along. Um, is one of the things that I think that you've done an incredible job of is you say it's my wife, my daughter, and me. And so being a husband, um, and how did that play out? Was your wife in the military as well, or was she a military wife that just was willing to go with you wherever you had to go? How did that work out? How are those dynamics? What can you tell us about what it means to be a husband?
So she served in the military. She did 8 years and she got out. She had a medical condition and she ended up getting out shortly after my daughter was born. Um, so being a husband, just a great responsibility to ensure that my family is good. My family is taken care of. Um, going to, I went to a financial planner yesterday, and we're talking about the relationship, with my wife. In the military, you have a thing called survivor's benefit plan,
Mm-hmm.
meaning, so when I retire from the military, I get a retirement check. It's your pension, you get it early, so you start paying your pension now, and I can pay a certain portion of that, to the military, so that if I pass away before my spouse, she gets 55% of my retirement check
Mm-hmm.
for, till she passes away. And I didn't think it was a good idea. I was like, no, I didn't think it was a good idea. One, because it costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
$300-400 a month. Let's go get life insurance and make sure that. And so, what I'm getting at is, I feel that there's a better way of taking care of my wife for that. So one, she was strong enough to understand she needed a career for herself. She's a licensed social worker.
Okay.
So she wanted to get into a field that was going to be beneficial to her, whether Marcus is around or not. And so, we talk about things of that nature. And then, not living in a whole lot of debt. So just things that we take, we learn, we bounce off each other just to make sure we're going in the right direction. So that when I pass, when she pass, it's going to happen. That we're not, somebody's not drastically stuck in debt, and now it's, pain is going to be there, grief is going to be there, because that's a natural emotion that happens. But being financially, not able to take care of business because of the way we lived our lives, I just thought better of that, and we were able to talk to make sure that we put ourselves in a different situation. So just trying to lead my family down the right path as best as I knew, not having all the information, not having all the guidance, but listening, reading, talking to people when I could, talking to friends when I could, just about different scenarios to bounce ideas off of, and then take them back and apply to my family to make sure that hopefully I've done the right thing.
Wow, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that, because I think there's so many times that we don't get to, talk about those things. That it sounds like that she is your friend as much as she is, your spouse, and you guys are willing to do things together, and the communication is there. Were there any, and when we talk about identity, and you grew up in a household, kids, were there any particular associations or people that are in your life that allowed you to excel, or kind of helped you, or kind of guided you into, thinking about it? I know you said you went, as soon as you were 18, you went into the military. Was that something that you really wanted to do? You stayed there for 30 years, so you must have liked it a little bit. But at the same time, when you were thinking and you're 18 years old and you're thinking about all your options, did you feel like that was your only option, or was somebody guiding you towards that? Or you just wanted to, for some people, just get out of your situation that you're in?
Right. So I didn't grow up, with a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
By far, I didn't grow up, not rich and nothing bad. I grew up with a lot of love. So that's one thing that I had. Finances, even guidance as far as what's next. Here's how to prepare yourself for your future, so on and so forth. Wasn't necessarily there. Not in the aspect that I see and realize now. So just, being in the military, or being, a young person, watching others, I can remember sitting on a school bus with a guy with a JRTC uniform. It's a military uniform. He's in JRTC, and just the way he's sitting, carrying himself, kind of stuck at me. And initially it was a way to go make some money over the summer. I joined the National Guard. I'm going to go to the National Guard, make some money, and see what it turns into. I did not care for the National Guard. Nothing wrong with them. I, love the great things they do for their states and the nation. It just wasn't enough for me. As I went to training and I got back and going to drill on the weekends, you kind of sit around talking all weekend, like, it just didn't wet my whistle. And, I remember another gentleman, at a drill, who saw me, and he was like, so, hey, is this all you're going to do? I took the SATs when I was in high school, but I didn't have any real intention, or I didn't have the means to go to college, outside of going to get in a whole lot of student loan debt, which probably would have been a way. But, just that conversation, is this all you're going to do? Be here. I worked at a grocery store. And so, I went active duty, and I've never looked back since then. And I think a lot of it was just the challenge. I've always loved a good challenge, whether it's learning, trying to become an expert in my job, or get promoted, or the things that were ahead of me. So I just would set small goals and achieve them and continue to push myself. So I think that's what led to me being in the military as long as I was. I didn't stay in any one particular place for a long time. So I didn't get complacent. Didn't have the opportunity to, because they moved me around. And then, dragging my family along, just trying to make sure that we continue to grow and learn together. I think that was it.
Do you have any favorite military stories, things that kind of shaped who you were as a result of maybe whether it was adversity or just sheer, where you just education or learning or something that throughout your time, a favorite place that you were at that you can look back to and say, it kind of can target some of that time there to becoming the person that I am.
Probably one of the bigger things that helped, push me was finding a battle buddy, a friend that we were able to push one another, to get to the next level. Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? So just having those conversations with someone who was like-minded, because sometimes if you're not ready for the challenge or you're not ready for the information that's been given to you, you may not necessarily want it. I know at some point I would have people talking to me about getting my education and so on and so forth, and not being completely ready. I was like, I'll get there. Not just yet. I'm not ready yet. So just finding somebody that was like-minded, so we were able to challenge each other to learn, to grow, to go to various schools that enhance our knowledge, to kind of put us in different positions to learn more and be more to be ready for promotion. To put yourself in a position to challenge yourself a little more, which happens to be, so when you ask me about favorite assignment, is I was at Fort Meade, Maryland, which is on the outside of DC. It's in between DC and Baltimore. So that's where I met this guy at. And I enjoyed the area because DC was 20 minutes away. New York was 3 hours away. Driving back home was about 4 to 5 hours. And it was so diverse. DC, there was just so much there. I went to the Million Man March, the reunion of it there. So just the opportunities of being there in the area, so much to do. Sightseeing. My daughter was small, didn't remember much, but being able to take her back up there to kind of visit and sightsee and tour. DC is just a good place. Traffic is horrible. Don't want to live there anymore. But it's a great place to visit.
Oh, cool. And just the history and all the things that you can go look at and be able to do. That sounds so neat. Now, I know you mentioned that you're now in banking, and you think of what is it that you did while you were in the service? I don't know. I mean, can you be a banker in the military as your assignment, or is it like how does it prepare you to do what you do? I would love to know a little bit more about.
No, so the military, they do prepare you to transition out. If you're going to retire, or if you're going to separate, there's a transition assistance program. Soldier for Life, is how they want us to identify. So the military does its part in transition, helping us transition to separate. And so a part of my transition was reaching out, network, trying to identify individuals, just to kind of get some insights and information from. It helps you interview, do mock interviews so you can practice those. So when you go into an interview, you're not cold, or even to write resumes. And I understand now that resumes are different. It varies by organization. Everybody wants something a little different. But the military did prepare me for some of that stuff. And I think just collectively, one, being a senior leader in the military, taking the opportunity to get my degree. There's some people who serve in the military 20 years, 30 years, they get out and then they want to use that time to go to school. I didn't do it. I went ahead and got my education while I was in. I've taken classes over in Afghanistan, sitting on the top of a vehicle, a little quiet time and, study or do whatever I needed to do. Mm-hmm. But I think all in all, taking some of those things, using the tools that the military provided for us, using a mock interview. My first one, I believe, was horrible. That the person that assisted me, nope, don't do this, or this. So I had to go back, revamp it, and try it all over again quite a few times. So by the time I got to the bank to start interviewing, I was a little more rehearsed. It was a little more natural because in the military, I don't, you get promoted and you move up. They take you and they place you in positions. There may be a few opportunities where you talk to another leader about why you think you're the best fit for a job, but it's not all in all an interview. You're not interviewing for a job. Your record sort of speaks for yourself. You're physically fit. You take care of yourself, well groomed, got education, things of that nature. Interviewing out in corporate America is different. Um, so I believe that helped me be competitive. A lot of organizations, they do look to bring in veterans, X amount of veterans in per year, which I think was a benefit to me. Not everyone who applies gets in. I still know people applying to try to get in. But I just think that, using the skills given, using some of the tools the military provided, and trying to set myself up, put me in the best position to be selected for a job in corporate America.
Was the transition hard? Was it, 30 years is a long time to do anything, and you're kind of in the same, and then you get out and now you're doing stuff that maybe, they're teaching college grads at 25 years old to do, and you now are in your 40s and having to do some of the same thing. Was that a hard transition? Or you're competing, right? And all of a sudden you're expected to go into our corporate world that you might even have a kid who's your boss, right? They're 10 years younger than you or 20 years younger.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And right to my right and left are interns or people who recently graduated college, and they're sitting to your right and left, and you guys are working on the same things. And yes, while I have experience, I can do this, I can do that. I didn't have the banking knowledge.
Gotcha.
So just being able to understand that, to pull back and say, hey, look, Marcus, I'm starting over. I really started my career over from scratch. Even though I was the greatest leader in the world when I was in the military, that person, I had somebody tell me, when you retire, take that person and put him in a bag and put him in the closet because he's gone. That person no longer exists. Now you have to remake yourself into this person. And, if you're going to try to work, yes, I'm still, I can go around certain soldiers that knew me in the military and they're like, hey, Sergeant Major, hey, Sergeant Major, hey, call me Marcus, because I'm trying to change and get out of that mentality. But no, you start over. So a lot of it is to listen, to communicate differently, to, listen. The same stuff I try to teach young soldiers as they join the military. Now I'm on the receiving end of that. And instead of me being the checker of work, I am the guy doing it from scratch. Like, hey, is this good enough? Nope. Go back and do it again. Like, that's where I'm at. But I'm committed to learn. So I understand that. And I'm committed to learn to make myself a better teammate, a better employee. And if you have that mindset, great. Not everybody has that mindset. I have some friends that do not work at all because they chose not to. So they retired and they're like, hey, I'm going to live and move at my own pace. I decided to work. So those are some of the things I understand that come along with working, that I'm sitting next to a 23, 24-year-old working on a PowerPoint slide. That's like, is this it? Like, for now it is.
Wow. I love your perseverance and your ability to adapt. I know that's because when I think of my life and I think of the progressions of, being a professor and then moving into my own business and being an entrepreneur and all those fed upon each other. I don't know if there was a time where I started over or I just added to, and to think that if I had to go back, mentally, would I be able to take, the advice or like I said, you've been training a whole bunch of young men, and then all of a sudden, young men are hanging with you as if they're your equals, and so I do appreciate that in a big way. I want to talk about money a little bit, just because you're in banking, you've gone through life, you made some really good financial decisions. if you were to teach a master class, you've done this, you understand it. Not only you had some lessons in the military, but you've been able to take care of your family, and now you're helping others do it. If you were to take somebody who's in there, I would say, let's say they've been to college, they've worked a few years, um, and now you're thinking about money, because it's easy to say, well, you're going to tell somebody right out of college what to do with their money and how to make it work, and you know through time that's probably the best thing to do. But if you've ever had a 23-year-old or been a 23-year-old or hung out with a 23-year-old, that's like talking to the wall that's right next to you, right? Because they're just getting going. So now they've had some mistakes, they've done some things, they're wanting to buy a house or do those types of, what are some of the things that you would be your greatest advice to make sure that they progress? Because some people just kind of get stuck, and then they just become consumers, and and then they go through life going, I wish I had wish I could have.
Yeah, I believe the hardest thing for most, and I say that for most, the few people I have conversations with is around the budget. If you can learn and put yourself on a budget, that is going to be your biggest benefit in life and moving forward.
Mhm.
Because once I, you know, understand paying bills and living on a discretionary amount of money, based on your salary, knowing that you have to save money because things are always going to happen. You're going to need tires on your vehicle and it's going to break down. Your refrigerator may go out. Um, trying to get people to live on a budget is probably one of the biggest things. And I've had a conversation with people. They want to sit down, they want to listen to it, and you can show. I've shown people like you have X amount of dollars per month that you know if you do it right, you're not going to be at zero every 2 weeks. Because you're saving, you're doing those things, and they do it for maybe 30 days or so, and then they stop and go back to what they're comfortable with. Um, which isn't a big benefit to them in the long run. I don't think, because there's always, can I borrow this? Can I do this? Can I do that? Even my daughter, 23-year-old, we've done a budget. Where I'm at now is I do her budget once a month when she gets paid. She gets a stipend at school. Do a budget for her. I talk to her about it, and then I kind of let her go for the month without, following up again, because we've had this life. We go down this path, and I understand it takes a while. I've been living on a budget for X amount of years, not my whole life. I've made mistakes. But my daughter reached out to me. She has a friend that wants a little help or a little guidance, and trying to figure out how to pay off student loan debts when they graduate, how to do this, how to do that. And I haven't had the conversation with her yet. I did have my daughter tell her to reach out to me. But, the first thing I said is, I talked to her about the budget and then told her she would have to live on less than what she makes, because the first thing most people do when they go get a new job with making X amount of dollars,
Mhm.
or um, when they graduate, is they want to go and get a new car. Like, you want to live like the money that you're making,
Mhm.
which is probably a mistake, because if you're not saving, preparing yourself for the future, it's it's not going to end up well for you. And then the other part is just investing. Taking money and investing and letting it compound over time. Um, because I'm fortunate. I served I put myself in a situation. I served in the military. Moved around. Not close with a whole lot of family members or younger kids that grew up, younger cousins. I didn't see them growing up because I was away in the military. Um, so now those are sacrifices I made to be able to draw a retirement check. And, not a lot of people are going to get that at, 40, 50 years old. They're not going to receive a retirement check. So the investments they make in themselves, putting it in a 401k, an RA, or some sort of investment package, they're not going to have that to fall back on, or if they're not investing now. So.
That's good. When I think of, thing that you're saying is, the budget is so important, and but the disciplines may be even more important. I I just finished writing a book. It's in the editing phase right now. It's called the Decision Formula: 5 Easy Steps to make decisions that will change your life. And one of the chapters in the book, or one of the 5 steps is in the book, is the disciplines being congruent with the decisions you make. I think the example that I use is, if I want to be a world-class swimmer, but I only want to go to the pool once a week, the discipline of going to the pool once a week is, there's no chance ever that I get to be a world-class swimmer. Well, when we think about money, the same thing. They say, well, the excuse that people make is money isn't everything. I really don't need that much. But in reality, it's a tool, and it's a tool we use every day, all day, every day. And it's up there with oxygen. It's like breathing in. I mean, you have to have it to navigate the world we're in, unless you decide to go live in the mountains off the grid or something by yourself. Then money is a part of every day that you do. So, when I think about those disciplines, how can you teach those disciplines that it actually, I guess, turns the light bulb on for somebody? I think of light bulb moments like, some people live to eat and to survive. Some people live as if money is, I need to work so that I can pay bills, so that I can continue my lifestyle. And then some people live with the thought process is, I need my money to make more money, so then I only can live off the money that it makes, not off the money that it's making. So it's always making. How do you, in your mind, in your world that you live in the way you've been able to do it, find those disciplines and then be able to teach them to others? Like, teach it to me right now.
And so I'm trying to teach it to my daughter, trying to get her, just had a conversation with her. I believe it was Friday, Saturday, over the weekend we spoke, and she asked, did me and her mom get it out of the mud? Like, one, I don't know what that is. Get it out of the mud. No, we didn't get it out of the mud. But I know what she was talking about. Just, understanding that we came from humble beginnings, and we're by far from rich, like not at all. Like I know what my account looks like. There's maybe $200 in there right now. But to, just have those understandings of growth, and trying to get her to understand the growth aspect of life, to put us, like, yes, we want to go on vacation. Yes, it looks good to go take pictures of you laying out on the beach and doing things of that nature. But you don't get there by spending every penny that you have, this current moment. Whether you're able to put it somewhere and watch it grow for you, your job matters. Like the work that you do matters. And, I've told my daughter, like, hey, you can go work at Burger King, McDonald's, wherever. Like, your decisions are going to be yours. They're not going to be mine. And so as a parent, not to rescue your kids every time they need to be rescued. And I see it all the time. I talk to people that they want to buy a house for their kids so they can leave something for their kids. Like, so the conversation I had with the financial planner is, like, leaving money for my daughter. Like, you want to leave? Like, no, I mean, I will, whatever's left. Out of the $200, if I got $100 left, she can have that and do what she wants. But the best thing I can do for her is to leave her knowledge, or to give her knowledge while I'm here, to have that understanding of how to live, how to budget, how to live financially, how to put yourself in a position, in a situation that's going to be beneficial. That's why she's in college, going to get a degree in a field that's hopefully it's going to be financially beneficial to her, and continue to stoke her mind and push her towards, just being a lifelong learner and doing better. But just giving to people is not, it's probably one of the worst things we can do. To just give blindly and say, okay, don't worry about it, because I have I put myself in a position to give. Doesn't mean that I'm just going to do that because there's no benefit to that. For, friends or other people that are out there, I have these conversations, And not that it's all just, financial, because they say if people don't ask a question, don't just tell them what to do. Nobody wants to hear about
Nobody wants to be told what to do, right?
if they didn't ask. But if conversations come up, then we kind of talk and we kind of go into it a little more. And that's just it. People wanting more. When you desire more, then you look for ways to do it. And there's several different ways. The TikTok tells people to go do this, that. I won't mention any of those things, but without education, without doing your own research, you're going to end up going in the wrong direction, because there's several get rich tomorrow things that are out there. And if it was that easy, that person wouldn't be there on TikTok telling you they're going to be over somewhere on the beach drinking pina coladas or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And you think about that, the disciplines that it takes to get the money. And for people who have come from nothing and developed the wealth and those disciplines that they created, they get to sustain it for a long time. Or if they lose it, they get it right back. Because it's those disciplines that they created that allowed them to be able to duplicate it. And you see somebody with the inheritance or somebody who wins the lottery, and then within 3 or 4 months, 6 months, 5 years, they've lost every penny of it because they don't have the disciplines to maintain it. And when I think of the Bible saying that we want to leave an inheritance to our children's children, when I think about what that means, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to just leave them a ton of money without the knowledge and the disciplines to be able to do it. The goal is that they don't have to start back as far as we did, right? That we've progressed and taught and fought and got to a certain spot. Now, instead of them having to go back to the beginning to start over, they get to start here and then move forward.
Right.
But if we haven't given them the knowledge and the education and things to take where they're at here and move forward, we've done a disservice. And so, if I'm leaving them that house that I want them to live in or whatever, that's great. They got a house when they got going. But what are they doing with that? Are they able to take? Now they don't have to save and scrimp and everything else to be able to buy a house. They get to take that and then move to the next house. And hopefully that next generation will be able to do the other thing. Because you think of, and this is when we think about World War II, and we think about black men in World War II who went and they fought the war and they got out of the war, then there was a benefit to buying a home. The VA, what we can now use as the VA, loans to be able to do that without having to put a down payment down, and the other things that are available to our vets now. Well, when those men came back from World War II, the big thing that happened is just so this, I think it was 13,000 homes were bought in the first few months or whatever, that were being able to use the GI Bill and the Veteran Administration loan that was available. Out of that, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, I do, but I'll see if you're close. How many men do you think there were black men who were able to take advantage of that, the VA loans at that time, out of the 13,000 that went out?
Yeah, so I don't know the number, but I know it was a very small, 2 people. Okay,
2 black men.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that low, but I know it was very, very low.
It was very, very low.
Yeah.
And so as to your point there, so yeah, you start out behind, because now if we look, that was in the early 1940s, and now we're, 70 years later, you can see how the generational wealth, or the wealth of folks that were able to get that first home and teach those principles, and not everybody was able to take advantage of it. And now we have that ability now. And so I think a lot of our responsibility, and I love what you're doing with your daughter, is you're taking that time to have those conversations with her. And I'm sure some of it she's asked for, and some of it you're probably volunteering. But at least it's going through, because I can just think of what your grandkids or your great grandkids are going to be able to accept or be able to have based on these conversations that you're having right now, and those things. Any other thoughts on that before I pivot to the next? I'm gonna pivot to health next, so I want to hear your viewpoint of health.
No, we can move to health. I think those are great points. And yes, plenty of us are not where we are because of our forefathers or older, fathers or whatever that served in the military didn't have the opportunities that were afforded to many others. And so, yeah, we didn't get the same starting point as many others. So I agree completely.
But now, right, we can take advantage of it, and so it's important that we do as
Right.
much as that we can. When we think about health, and I want to pivot to that because I think the disciplines that are in the military may teach you about being healthy and staying healthy. And, if the average Black man life expectancy is 72, how do we extend that? How do we physically do the things that we're supposed to do? And how do we make that a part of our daily routine? But more importantly, the mental health side of it. And, it sounds like you were deployed into a desert somewhere at some point, and I know the mental health of a lot of the folks that you were with after coming back may have been a more difficult thing to maintain and do. So, what is it that you've been able to do to help maintain both physical and mental health?
So mental is counseling. Yeah, I know there's a stigma that a lot of Black men don't go to counseling. I think just on Saturday Night Live, just over the weekend, they made a joke about Black men not going to counseling. um, and so it's just something we have to do. I mentor, a few young adults, young men that are trying to get families together, so on and so forth. And I let them know there's nothing wrong with counseling. My wife is a counselor, a clinical social worker. And so just being able to learn from her, every counselor is not for you. And so I think for us, that's probably one of the biggest things to learn and understand, because I've had counselors that were good to talk to, but provided nothing, in a sense of nothing that was truly beneficial, to us. Yeah, we can sit down and have a good conversation, but are you pushing me in a direction? Are you trying to pull from me something that's going to be beneficial to Marcus going forward? And I've had it where no, it's not really a good conversation, or yes, okay, I see what you're doing. I see something from there to learn. So I think for me, knowing that, I kind of spread that or talk to people like it's okay not to buy this Honda Accord or not, go look at Nissan. You can try different counselors until you find the right one, someone that works for you. Not somebody who just tells you what you want to hear, but someone who's actually driving you to understand some points, see where you're wrong at, see where you're right at, something that's just going to be beneficial to you. So counseling, I think, is just one of the big areas that we have to understand it's okay to do. It's okay to go and talk to someone periodically. And then physically, I think it's just something we should do, whether it's walking, get out and walk for 30, 45 minutes a day. It just refreshes your mind, charges your body, gets your blood flowing in different areas instead of you sitting in the house and not doing it. I run routinely. I won't say I'm an avid runner. I can go and run. Yesterday, I only ran 2 miles, and I think I ran 5 on Friday. But I'm in running clubs where some of these guys are out running 26 miles, marathons on a routine basis. They run one, and then next week they're going to do another. So I would say those guys are avid runners. But physical fitness for me is something I do daily just because I think it just gives me a lot, kind of keeps me going, gives me time to think where I'm not listening to music, not sitting down watching TV. It just kind of gets the blood flowing in a good way. And it's really good for your heart, just to kind of get on it and do some sort of rigorous activity, a few times a week. So both mental and physical, I think, there's some benefit to it. Even I have friends in the military that hit me up, if I post on Facebook that I just ran X amount of miles. Hey, why are you out running? Why are you doing this? Why? And I don't respond anymore because you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But I think it just leads a lot to physical fitness and kind of keeps us going. One of the things that kind of goes around the military is like after you retire, If you make it 5 years, if you live 5 years past you retiring, then you're going to be good. Um, and some of that has to do with, so I get out, I've worked out for 30 years, so I'm not going to work out anymore. I'm not doing a push-up, I'm not running, I'm not doing anything. But then with that comes, you add on 30 or 40 pounds. And so you look different, you see yourself looking different, and it's like, okay, let me get back to who I was. And you get out and you start running these miles and your heart isn't ready for it. Your body isn't ready for it. That could lead to a heart attack or different things like that. Cancer, unfortunately, is one of the things. I just lost a friend who was buried over the weekend. Somebody who retired shortly after me. And he lost his battle with cancer. Another guy just posted last night on Facebook. He's, prostate cancer. So just, going to the doctor to get checked out. Now, I think he caught his early enough. Hopefully, he caught it early enough where they're able to eliminate it. But, we just have to make sure to make it to 72 that, we're out trying to take care of ourselves as best as we can. We don't have to eat vegetables all day or run 8 miles, but, just do some of the small things that are beneficial.
So what do you say to the person, Marcus, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to walk. What do you say to that person?
So I get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the gym. Like, I don't have to be at work until 9.
Gotcha.
So there's time, we make time for what's important for us.
That's the answer.
So if, I think the gym I go to, I don't go at night because I'm a morning person just by habit, but I think they're open until 10. So instead of sitting on the couch and going to sleep at 9, 10 o'clock, you can go walk your neighborhood. So there's time. We can always make an excuse. Excuses exist. They do for whatever it is you want. But, if you really want to, get yourself in a different environment, a different mode, a different mood, you just have to take some time and start small. Start with a mile. Walk a mile or whatever. Just start small and build up. That's it.
I love that answer. Is you make time for what's important to you, because the reality is you don't have time not to do it, because time is the only thing that we don't get any of it back.
Right.
None of it back, not a second of it back. You can't get it, and so you want to prolong it as long as you can, and you don't do that by not taking care of your body and yourself. And I think of our, on the whole mental health side of it, and making sure that we're doing some of those things. When I think of my mentors and the people who have helped me, I've gone to counseling. That is, a professional who has gone to school and knows how to deal with issues, and that's been great. But at the same time, I've gone to people that I admire, that are in positions that I'm in, that someday I aspire to be in. And I ask them questions, and I say, okay, what would you do in this situation if I find somebody who is a great dad and his children love him to death as older children? I want to kind of, hang out with them a little bit. Like, so what did you do to get what you got? Because I don't want my kids to hate me when I'm older or whatever it is. And so, I start thinking of that power of those people that are in my life that are counselors, but they don't always have to be professional. And the fact that there's not a human being that I know that has every aspect that I aspire to be. I mean, that would be God, right? Because that is the person that you're emulating, right? But so that means I shouldn't look to one man to have all the answers. I should look to several, who's the good dad? Who's the good, spiritual leader? Who's the good athlete or person who works out? Who's the good financial person? Who's the good relationship person? I mean, have all of the people that you've leaned on, have there been some people in your life that you, to this day, still kind of have conversations with that can help you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so I have friends, and almost like you stated, you have them in different buckets. So I have friends, and then as we come together, we try to tie some of it in together. Instead of a week, going to a football game, we may, drink a few adult beverages and things of that nature. We always find time to talk life, like the real aspects of life, whether it's financing, whether it's retirement, because, I think that's next on my horizon. How do we prepare for this next chapter of life? Whether it's kids that, their kids may be older or younger. So we always find time to squeeze in a few hours of those conversations, in all aspects. In every bucket of friends I have, we try to size some of that stuff in. While, what I know may be beneficial to me could help you, they may have a different aspect on it that's going to be beneficial to me. So just a constant learner, just somebody who always have their ears open to kind of learn and take some things that are going to be beneficial amongst the group. And so, yes, just having friends that, and even I'll say this, even some people that are doing things that you don't necessarily think are good. It's good to see things done the wrong way. It's good to know that people are doing things the wrong way, because that itself gives you something to say, hey, I'm not going to go in that direction.
Oh, so what a good point.
I learn from everybody.
Yeah, what a good point is not only do you see the things that you want, you can see the things you don't want, and then say, what did he do to get that? I'm not going to go down that path.
Right.
That's so cool. Is there anything, as we're winding down, is there anything that I was remiss in talking about, things that you wanted to make sure that we talked about during our time together today, that you would love for everybody who's listening to this to hear?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. The growth aspect of it is something that I try to be big on now, while I'm still sharp and things like that, with the opportunity to give back, just to share information with others. Like I mentioned, try to mentor some younger men positively, because you can always have somebody who gives you information that's not necessarily good for you. But, talking marriage, talking raising kids, talking things of that nature, talking finances, because like you mentioned, money, while you may not think you need a lot of it, and you don't need a lot, but you do need enough to be able to take care of your family. So I think these are some great topics covered, right down the wheelhouse of things that I enjoy talking about. So much appreciated.
Absolutely. And so thank you for being on today. One of the keys that, and I hope you were like me, and whether you hit subscribe or you ring the bell or whatever, I'd love to have you be part of all of these conversations, because I get to take all these notes. I get to find out, what are people doing. Some people are going to be your, excited, ecstatic. We talked to a guy who has his own barbecue sauce yesterday. Oh man, he was so excited. He thinks I'm going to eat some mustard, and I'm not going to eat no mustard, but he's got a mustard-based sauce. It's like one of those things that it's just not. But we will see, right? But then you have people who just give you practical, everyday, I'm doing this day in and day out. If you follow some of my example, you're going to get some of the results that I have. And that's been our conversation. I think the key that I took away from what you said is just how important conversations are. And I encourage you, if you're the person who goes, I would love to be a part of conversations, but it seems like every time that I go somewhere, the conversations are superficial. We talk about, sports, or what person's doing really well, or, I know we don't talk about politics, right? We're not allowed to talk about that, but we talk about, what somebody did in the street, or we're gossiping. And very rarely do we get to those conversations that can impact the lives of the people there. And so, and I guess my encouragement to you is start some of those conversations. If you're not able to be in that conversation, hey, just ask a few guys out and go sit down and just kind of start talking. I guarantee if you start talking about key things in life, things that have been great for you, things that haven't been great for you, people will jump in, they will chime in, they will want to talk about these issues. And as us Black men, we don't get the opportunity to do that. And that's what kind of the Journey to Freedom program and podcast is all about, is giving us the opportunities to have some of that conversation. So it could even be, as I'm thinking about, you could say, okay, I want to have a conversation. Let's all watch one of these podcasts. Let's find out what we can get about, and then let's go have a conversation that starts from there. Not that this conversation is the best conversation you've ever heard. It's that it's a catalyst to help you have deeper conversations about things that are real. Because you can say, well, if Brian could do that, or if Marcus could be this genuine and be this vulnerable and be that person who's willing to say, this is what I did. How do we expand that more? So again, Marcus, thank you for being part of it. Thank you for coming on, spending an hour with me. I know that time is something, like I said, you can't get this hour back, and I want to make sure that the hour that you spent was worth time. And we're going to duplicate that time by putting it out online and having other people be able to watch something that was super impactful for me. Again, so if you guys believe you're God's greatest gift, He loves you if you allow Him to. Please don't forget that you are born for greatness, and greatness is part of who you are. So we'll see you on the next one. You guys have an amazing, awesome, incredible day today.